Welcome to Temple Beth Torah, A Brief History. Hi, my name is Jack Marcus. This film is a brief history of the temple for members wishing to join or for members that would like to learn a little bit more about their history. There have been Jewish citizens in Ventura County since 1873, but it wasn't until 1938 that a formal organization was created. Ralph Moses came to the United States in 1938 from Berlin. His family was sponsored by his uncle, George Zander. His family later became one of the founding families of the VCJC. In 1938, times were tough, and transits would make their way up and down the coast looking for work or a handout. The transit went from one Jewish store to the next, trotting out the same old story. It was obvious the time had come to devise a system to control charitable giving. It was agreed among the local merchants that there had to be one central person who would dispense money and keep records so that he could be reimbursed by the other merchants. They didn't realize it at the time, but the Jewish community had found themselves a secretary-treasurer. Eventually, the Jewish people created the name Ventura County Jewish Council.
Once a month, the group would meet. They'd play cards, and sometimes they'd have a guest speaker and so forth. But it was strictly, the reason that we organized was, first of all, because of what was happening in Santa Barbara, where the Germans had been organized, and all the propaganda against the Jews was part of their activity. That was one thing. The other thing is, Jews couldn't get into any of the social clubs in Ventura.
An organization required an edifice. Otherwise, where were they to gather for meetings? The first VCJC building was purchased in 1943. VCJC purchased the bottling plant located at 25,000 Channel Drive in Ventura for $2,500. The place was not pretty and it needed major repair, but it was a bargain and it belonged to them. Renovations were completed in 1944. The first rabbi was Jacob Halevi, who only worked on Friday nights. The first full-time rabbi was Meyer Simon. At that time, he was the only person on the payroll. 1956 was a difficult year for American Jews. Ronnie Banks, who is over 100 years old, is one of the original leaders of the VCJC. Ronnie led the first campaign to raise money to build the temple. In 1957, under his influence, $97,000 was raised to buy 13 acres of land on the corner of Kimball and Foothill. Construction on the temple, however, did not begin until 5 years later. Before construction actually began, our then Rabbi Herbert Morris suggested that we might add the name of a temple to VCJC. It seemed a reasonable compromise, and at last the discussion turned to an appropriate name. It was between Temple Beth Shalom and Temple Beth Torah. Since the vehemence of the arguments that preceded the vote had not fully died down, it was obvious there would be very little shalom at Beth Shalom. So by choice, or by default, it became the Ventura County Jewish Council, Temple Beth Torah Incorporated. The real reason for the arguments were actually the purpose of the future of the community. Were they to be a council, or more of a religious group? Some argued that there was so much more to Judaism than religion that they needed a council to keep them organized. Others said that Judaism was all about the religion and that you didn't need council or people telling you what to do to worship. The temple was built in stages. During the first stage, the offices, lobby, social hall, 8 classrooms, and the caretaker's cottage were built. On Sunday, February 24th, 1963, the new building was ready and it was time to move the Torahs over. 30 cars lined up with flags waving from the rear window of the lead car and with the rabbi and cantor holding the Torahs. The move from 2500 Channel Drive to 7620 Foothill Road began. 20 years later, in 1982, construction began again. At that time, additional classrooms, offices, and bathrooms and the long-awaited sanctuary were added. The dedication ceremony took place in October 1985. The beautiful stained glass windows in the sanctuary depict a different verse from the first chapter of Genesis. Today, our congregation is led by Rabbi Lisa Hochberg Miller and cantor Michael Anatol. Recently, the temple celebrated the 10-year anniversary of Rabbi Lisa, who has now been with us for longer than any other rabbi. This film is for my community service project for my bar mitzvah. I would like to thank Ralph Moses and Carl Ellisman for providing information for the creation of this film.
It darkens our days, and we'll make one